You're listening to These Are The Days.
Hello friends, and welcome back to These Are The Days. It's been a while. Thanks for your patience over the last 18 months, but we're back with a new episode every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. Give us a follow on social media. We're at The Days Podcast. You can check the website, thedayspodcast.com, and please share the episode so people can that your favourite podcaster, Rory Costello, is back with more good guests for your listening pleasure. My guest this week is DJ and promoter, local legend and all-round good guy Billy Morris, as we look back at his DJing career, serving in the TA, stepping in for a headliner, his hugely successful live lockdown podcast, and much more on episode 18 of These Are The Days.
These Are The Days.
So my guest this week, the first guest back on our second series, Billy Morris. How are you, Bill?
I'm good, Ronnie. How's yourself, pal?
Yeah, we're very good. Listen, it's good to do this face-to-face. I just literally said this to you because I've been doing a lot over Zoom. But to get sat on a couch and just doing this is pretty cool. Before we get into the mix of being the DJ superstar that you are these days, and what was it like growing up in Dundee for you? I always like asking the question that take people back a wee bit.
I had a bit of a checkered past to start with. I was a bit of a young ruffian when I was hanging about Boots Corner with my squad when I was 16 till I was about 19, or probably a lot longer than that. So the least we say about those days, the better. Hanging about abusing people at Boots Corner.
Yeah. What did you want to be at school? Like, that's always a question that
I don't know.
No?
I don't know, mate. It's like, I've got my son upstairs who's about to be 16 and careers teachers are speaking. I'm saying, what do you want to be? And I'm thinking, come on, you need to know. And I look back, I never had a clue what I wanted to be. I never thought about it. I was really, really immature for my age. I didn't think I grew up until I was late 20s. That's still what I do now for my day job. I just fell into it, and these things kind of happen. I was quite bright at school, but just see now, like you hear careers teachers and you try and guide people. In my day, can you never come home at your mum and dad and they said, come on son, what do you want to be? It was just, there's your tea, you run out and played football. I suppose I wanted to be a footballer. I played for Dundee when I was 14, 15, but it was very short lived because I was one-footed. Okay. Terribly one-footed, so I got found out pretty quick. So I wanted to be a footballer when I was younger.
Yeah, for MD that's come across for the Dode Fox podcast, the United one that I do. You are a Dundee fan, but listen, that's all right. But have you been growing up? Has it been indoctrinated for you, for family? Is that how you fell into it?
Yeah, totally. My dad was a Dundee season ticket holder. I was lifted over the turnstiles from a very early age, and yet some of my family, my cousins, Paul Morris and all that squad, they're our United supporters. The Rickies,
so the Cliverites,
the sausage suppers, they're our United. So, but I had like a couple of uncles, and I used to remember when I was growing up, I'd be about maybe 9, 10. I'd go and see my Uncle Tom, and he'd put United biscuits out on a plate. And obviously you're 9, 10, you just want a bit of chocolate, and my dad would just give us a dirty look, and I'd put the hand out and say, okay to take them. But they were funny because they were United, but they were blue and white thingies. Yeah. And I said, Dad, it's blue and white. And he said, you touch that and we're over. And my uncle would put them closer and closer. So pretty much growing up a Dundee fan, it wasn't a great kind of, and other days of Jim McLean and that, it's like that's how we hate you, because it was rubbish. Yeah. And you wanted to see a team for Dundee doing well, can beating Barcelona in Europe, but at the same time it flipping really grips your shit. It really, really gets under your skin. And
yeah.
But again, we were talking earlier about Rangers and Celtic. As much as I hate United, I hate the feeling United, but I could still go on the piss with United supporters. On a derby, I meet a couple of mates. I've went to hospital with United supporters. So it's kind of carry on hatred, is it?
It's like
you hate everything about it, but you didn't.
Yeah, well,
it's acceptable.
I've brought up a few times on the other podcast. We always say that it's a real unique derby because their friends, their family, their work colleagues. All you're wanting out it is the bragging rights, and for your boys at work not to speak to you because you've done the job on the Saturday, and that's what's really unique about it. It's no fake hate because you don't want to lose the game, but for 90 minutes you hate each other. Let's get put it that way.
Shouting across the seggy, you're fuming, you're spitting. Even if you're sober, you hate it, and you hate everything about them. Then I could go home and say it. The one thing that really annoys me now is social media, Twitter and that. So what used to happen, like you wake up with the butterflies on Derby Day, and let's be honest, it's the only game you really get excited about. You didn't get excited about the Old Firm. You didn't get excited about the farmers think we get excited about them, and nobody's excited about them. Hats off to them for what they've done. But you're excited about it, and then you go and you just don't want to beat. Then you'd go to your work on Monday. I used to work in a factory, and you'd get abuse for the boys. You'd probably had a bet with a couple of boys who had that, and you say, this is great. But the thing is, now with social media, it's constant, and I just like can't be arsed with it all week. I like a wee bit of, I'll text my mates saying, that's 1-0 and blah, blah, back and forward. But now it's like somebody on Twitter's giving you abuse for days and days. Now, how the old firm guys could just keep that vitriol and hatred going for kind of, so it's no the minority, they're all like that. And it just, that bitterness. Like I say, I'm bitter on a Saturday and I was brought up hating United, but you didn't. Then we could sit across and have a pint and speak about it and a laugh as well.
And that's it. Apart from the screen you've got between me right now, because you didn't like me that much. But one thing, we were lucky, we had Lee Wilkie on the other podcast, and obviously been on both sides of the divide, but I mind seeing the real hurt in his eye and when he was telling us about the administrations. I'm not gloating here, but as a Dundee fan, how hard was that to go through?
They're just horrendous. You've obviously got that scene, people losing their jobs, which is horrible, but you're kind of brought up on it, and it's your whole life. And I mean, during lockdown, being away from it and not being at Dens, you'd have been the same. It was just like, well, what am I doing on a Saturday? It's not even like you could go down the town and go shop with the missus, which would have been torture as well. But it's like, what a day. Dundee's my whole life. It was my son's a ball boy at Dens. It's everything. So it was just, the thought of losing that and just losing something that you'd grown up with school was just horrendous. And you tried to give money. It's not like Rangers. We wouldn't let our club die. We tried our best to keep it going. But once is flipping pretty abysmal. To do it twice is just really poor flipping.
What was it worth it for seeing the players that you had in the park, or do you look back now and think, well, should have been a wee bit careful?
I would like him. I've discussed this. We've sat in a club bar where we usually drink before the game. Me and my cousin Ross Dugan and Andy and all that, and I thought, was it worth it? And part of you thinks, I've got a signed Caniggia top on the way upstairs, and it was great, and we'd done a wee bit of a Europe excursion, and it was, unfortunately I missed it because I was in Iraq at the time. So was it worth that?
No, on holiday, I hope.
No. It's a 6 month mind dodging tour. So I think I still kind of give you an honest answer. It was great. We played some great football. We had a couple of top 6 finishes, but the gamble was to sell these players on for good money, and it was kind of working. And the Bosman come along, and then the arse fell out the market, and we made a horrendous cunt to it. And it's crap, but it's probably no, because we've been in the wilderness for that long as a result, and you'd hope financially stable now. And probably now that it's easy to say it was worth it now because we've survived, but we've got that flipping Dens is a bit of a hole, and then they're talking about this going to this new stadium. I personally kind of see it. I'd love it, but then I kind of like in the 2 stadiums in the 1 street. It's kind of like
amazing.
I get mates up for England, like boys, DJs come up for the weekend and they say, we'll go clubbing and we'll do this, and the next day I'll pick them up there and I'll say, you're a football fan? I say, man, we'll drive. Andy Mark was up, he's a Cream resident, and he says, shows around. On Tandai Street, 2 closest professional football teams. Though I always thought it was in the world, but they say it's only Europe now.
Yeah.
Is there someplace else?
I think there must be some South American, South Africans right across the water.
Well, I just say the 2 closest football teams in the world, and they come up and they go, wow, I've seen it on TV. People come from England and see it, and a couple of other boys will show it. So I like having that and telling people. So the thought of moving away to the new campy, and I'd hate to be really well, if it had the lock and this crematorium and good facilities, because there's no boozers up there either. Where are you going to go? And it's not dead easy to get. You're going to get taxis for the boozers. So, I mean, it's no pointing fingers at American owners, because obviously we've got them as well. But it's a very kind of American, but an English thing as well. Like, there's a lot of grounds. I mean, that's why I love, like, you look at Anfield and Goodison, they're still in city centres, but you look at clubs that are way out, it's like, what's the fun in it? What's the day gone? I mean, you can get to the game, fine, but you need your boozers, your pre-match and all that kind of stuff. But though, if it came here guaranteed that we would run like the Farmers, look at McDermott, right? They've got that there, they've got the hospitality, they've got tiny crowds, but look what they're doing. They're totally punching above their weight with what they're doing. They've got the AstroTurf, everything's just sort of money making. See if somebody could say Dundee need to be like that, and if we move up there, we're going to have an exhibition centre, we're going to have the crematorium's going to bring in some X amount a week. I might see that and going, what? Here, listen, if it's up there with the dog track and all these kind of things, it's no wonder we get laughed at sometimes. But if it was built on a sound business model and it brought in the money and they said, here's X amount would give us so much to players, if there was good hospitality, good facilities, and say there was a good bar there, a proper bar, and the money was going to Dundee, you could say, well, come on, we'll get a taxi up there at 1 o'clock and we'll drink in the stand for tours. That'd be great. So I'd hate to be on a good business model. It wouldn't hate to be half-arsed like the dog track or anything else that we tried. So what was your question again? Man, I feel like Ronnie Corbett here.
Listen, it's
like
always good.
meander.
That's like anything when you're speaking about football teams or whatever, like being that close and everything about it. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
Right, DJing then. That's what you're renowned for. How did you get into it?
Do you know what? I always had a kind of record collection. I always sort of bought vinyl in the days, and I liked it. And I had like can there be Technics? No, like a DJ thing, just like a sort of rack system, and I liked that. And then there was a boy at Scale. He'd come up for England, and he'd round about 5th year, and he said, "I'm going to put a party on. Do you fancy dinner?" He's done it in Heavens Above. And he said,
before my time. You're going to explain what that is.
Tell her, Tokyo Joe's. It was in Union Street. No, we're right across the trades. There was there's flats now and that. There was a wee Tokyo Joe's was up there. I've got the ticket actually for it there. And he says, I might put this wee do. It's going to be like a 6th form disco, but he goes, I play hip hop and I'm going to DJ. So he said, okay, I'll get you in. He goes, I'm going to get my mate up for London to do it. And then about 2 weeks before, he says, my mate can't make it. He says, somebody told me you've got a big vinyl collection. And I says, well, I do actually. Couldn't DJ it. Couldn't mix a cake. But then again, nobody could mix a cake in the days. Even like Pete Tong was about 10 years a huge DJ and couldn't mix. Right. And beat mixing wasn't really a thing. So he said, would you play? And I said, I'll get this. So the time it must have been 1989. So you're talking early rave, Summer of Love, Voodoo Ray, these kind of big tracks. So I just started playing it. I had a big pair of Kenny Everett headphones on and absolutely loved it. And everybody that was there was either from my school, in my class, or a really good pal. And the place just kicked off and it was amazing. I just thought, here, that's some buzz. But like we talked about off audio earlier, DJs weren't a big thing. DJs were these crusty nerds, white-faced, pasty nerds who were like crate diggers. There wasn't anything cool being a DJ. Obviously, some of the big guys in London were starting to come up, your Oakenfolds and Danny Ramplins and that, but certainly being a DJ in a club in Dundee, you were in the background, the lights all shone on the dance floor. It never shone in the booth. So I never thought this is something you could do. So I started like, well, that was good. I wouldn't mind another wee go. I got paid decent money for it. He gave us a bit of the door money. And I thought, well, there's money in this, I could do this. Suddenly a couple of other wee things started coming. I thought, here we go. And then I thought, I'm going to buy myself the equipment. Right, I'll look into this. Much of these Technics 1210s I'm looking at, and they were like £1,000 a pop. So you're talking 2 of them. This is 1989. I thought, I just can't afford that on my stinking salary at Talkheim, making petrol pumps on $7,500 a year. And it was just like,
it's incredible, isn't it?
So two turntables and a decent mixer, you're talking $2,500. So that was a big thing in my salary. So I think actually my mate Goog's I bought his old, he was like a hip hop DJ, I bought these old Newmark things for them, and they were belt drives and they were horrendous. And I think that's probably set us up the best thing to do, because if you could mix on them, you could mix on anything, because it was like, there was no getting a mix in and leave it. It was like push. You had to, for anybody that's mixed before, you had to keep shoving the vinyl, and it was speed up and slow down, and it was warbling. So I bought them. And then other good mate, Scotty Miller, God rest his soul, he's gone now. He had I think he was just, I can't remember what he was, but he had decent money, and he bought himself a set of Technics 1210s, and I'd sort of kind of learned how to DJ. He goes, I'll show you. And Scotty, God rest his soul, he couldn't count to 8. He just couldn't get it. I said to everybody, I give DJ lessons now. When I was DJing a couple of lessons, and it was my cousin's young lass, and she's saying, what do you do? I said, if you count to 8, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and boom. And Scotty was going 5, 6, 7. No, Scotty, you're 1 too early then, mate. You were on 7.
So did he say he was going to teach you? But
no. He bought decks and says, "Mon, teach us." And I was teaching him, and it's just like I was always on the 10th beat or the 7th. Like I say, God rest his soul, but he just couldn't get it. And 6 months, I was teaching him, and he's going, no, Scott, too early, son. Come on, Mark. Come on. And he got, I've had enough of this shit. Do you want to buy them? And he sold us them cheaper, and that's how I got this set of Technics 1210s, because I wouldn't have been able to afford it. And if I got them, which are still industry standard now. They're still sitting in my studio. I've still got these thingy for Scotty, the same set of 1210s. And do you know what? They're bomb-proof. They've been moved house about 6 times. I've dropped them things. I mean, you drop a set of CDJs now, and it's like dropping a laptop. They've got to get repaired. They need to get them serviced once a year, every couple of years. But my 1210s, I think I've had them serviced once since 1989. So there you go. So they're bomb-proof. I'm sure when what was the place in the town across for the Jet Garage that burnt down? somebody said, it was, no, the Habara, what do you call it? Coconut
Grove.
Burnt down. Someone said they went in, that there was a fire, the fire brigade had hosed it all down, and obviously everything got ripped out. Somebody went in and grabbed the 1210s and they were working. A wee bit of water damage, just fixed them. They were just bomb-proof, whereas the modern equipment's just like, it's laptops, and it's just
incredible, isn't it?
It's how it gives me the jitters, DJ, now. See, with a set of 1210s, as long as you never knocked the needle off the record or got too pished, or I've done what I done one night, got banned for a club with Paul Oakenfold, but we'll maybe talk about that later. As long as you never knocked the needle off, you were good. Whereas see DJing with laptops and that gives me the fear, because it's like, I'm sitting at my work doing a spreadsheet and it goes, blue screen crash. You do that in front of 3,000 people, it's just absolutely your ear's fence. So that's how I got started.
That's class. Because we were saying just before it as well, like back in the day and all that, and I remember being like a Newmark DJ in a box kit to get you going, but I'm sure my mum spent about 400 quid on it and probably grudged every bit of it, but it was just like, this is just what you're going to need today. And I just remind it of being mental, really. You mentioned some tunes there. What else would have been in your record box early days?
D-Shake, yeah. And then the B-side of Techno Trance, that's still an amazing sounding tune now. Some of that, just the hacienda stuff. Whenever I hear those tunes, I just remember, never ever made it to hacienda. I've been outside it since when it was closed, but I never made it to a night there. I'd been at a few clubs all over. I used to go to Cream a lot, places in London and Sheffield and Leeds, but I never made it to hacienda. It's one of my biggest regrets. And just whenever I hear their records, I could see that, the people with the bucket hats on, just dancing inside. Yeah, I must have been some buzzing there.
I read the book, be a good few years ago now, about the hacienda, and the stories are just
scary as well, though.
Unbelievable, but what a place! I mean, it sounded incredible.
Yeah, it was DJing with Graham Park a couple of weeks ago at Street Rave, and just loved speaking to him. And that's a guy that was there, breathed it, done it. She's speaking to guys like that. It's just totally amazing.
Yeah, it's class. So you go for there. So when do you get your break? When do you get your first residency or your gigs after that? How does it start building?
Where did I go for there? I was just doing the odd party for people, and I was playing kind of half house music, half dance, and then I'd always batter, like a track I play now, I'd always like batter Sweet Dreams in it. Like I was playing a lot of sort of electro and 80s synth pop and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't like a dance mix, it was just Eurythmics, 12-inch Eurythmics, and a lot of Pet Shop Boys and that stuff. And I've never been a cool DJ. Nobody's ever went, oh, he's really cool, or he's playing some amazing tunes. It's always been on the cheesy side, not too cheesy, I'd hope, although some would argue. But I've never been a musical snob or a DJ snob. I've never looked in my nose for somebody to play it. If it works, I'll play it. So it was just like doing for party here, the odd maybe once a year a rave, and then I started playing. I was playing parties and after parties, and I got in tow with the glam boys there, and I think I handed them a tape in those days, I was handing them a tape, and I'd done an after party, and I'd brought my shitty old Newmark decks to the after party, and I started playing. You went, you can actually beat match, and there's no many DJs in the early days that could properly beat match. Wait to give you a wee shot, and then like Shy and Tahir brought us on, and before I knew it was the Purple Rooms, which is where my Maison is now, underneath there, and that was some place. So
I've wrote that down. I was going to ask you about the Purple Rooms.
The Purple Rooms was just this wee tiny underground club. It was dark as hell, pitch black almost. It had a wall made of chainmail, and then it was like a room divider in front of the DJ booth, and everybody used to just get buckled and climb it or fall through it and there. And although I could sort of beat match, I was still learning how to mixer work. I was still learning red levels and how to transition and this kind of thing. So still really learning. And they said, we fancy putting you on as a resident. So I went, with this. Right, first week's Michael Kilkey. Then next week it's K-Class. And then it was, what's his name? His name just went across my head there. Tony DeVee was there. And I'm like, I've been listening to these boys' tapes. So next minute I was standing next to him, nervous, ended up blue-turd. And then that's when I discovered that maybe some people would argue, I've always managed to really, really DJ well drunk. And it's like, it's maybe not the best thing, but the drunker I get, the more I could
certainly get to that over lockdown, don't worry.
Definitely. So the Purple Rooms was the first gig, and then Shine Tatty said, that's going quite well. Purple Rooms blew up and got really big, and there was big queues around the block.
What are you talking capacity-wise?
I must have been, it couldn't have been any more than 150.
It's incredible, eh?
180 maybe.
So that's showing you that you're queuing up early if you want to get in.
That was it. And like I say, it was just, I think we had a membership pass. You needed a membership to get in. And just in the days, it was just like clubs were just popping up. You had the Rumba Club, who I was going there as a clubber. And I think one thing I've always had in my mind, I've never ever thought of myself, maybe the last 5 years of that, I always thought of myself as a clubber who played music. I used to go to the Rumba, club away, then go away, and then for the Purple Rooms, I progressed to Glam. Shy and Tight were doing big nights. They were doing Fat Sam's as well. And I was a clubber in Fat Sam's. I'd been going to Fat Sam's Amadeus. I went through the eternal nightmare of being 17, 18 and getting in the queue, and the boy just saying, no mate, regulars only. But how do you become a regular? Right, okay, now try again next week. No mate, no. And you were getting further up the queue and up that. And then actually Fat Sam's had a thing called the Rope Club, which was an under 18s, and it was Ned and Dave Kalikas, Ned Jordan, Dave Kalikas, fantastic DJs, well known throughout Britain. Great names. They were DJing at under 18s, and it was none of this, right, under 18s will play pop and that. They were playing Voodoo Ray, battering the big tunes. It was amazing. That shot at 10:30, then the fat is over 18s done. And eventually I was just slowly getting it. And eventually one week, I think it was 17, 18, the boy went, yeah, in you go. And I thought, that's me, made it. Better speak to him, make sure I'm like a regular. But I was actually going to under 18s Rope Club because the atmosphere was that great. Stein and say, look mate, I'm 18. He'd say, no bother. So I was doing the bit for him. So it was just fantastic days for music.
And how good was the original Fatties floor?
The original Fatties, yeah. It was just brilliant. I was playing there last week, the first big rave since doors open. Hannah Lang, who's doing really well, she did her Hannah Choice event. She sold that out, and it was in the top floor of Fat Sam's, right? So I was Jack Lowe was warming up, and I was what I going next, and I thought, I'm just what I nipped into my old spiritual home. Anybody that knows me now was always on the dance floor in Fatty's, the middle floor would call it now, but the original. And I went down, and there was a big jolly chap playing some charity stuff, and I was just going, oh baby, what have they done to you? And what have they done to my baby here? So yeah.
See the same tunes you're on about playing like Voodoo Ray now, the tunes that would get you on the dance floor.
Oh totally. Voodoo Ray is it just means something. He was one of my heroes. A guy called Gerald's one of my heroes, and just watching the Hacienda, and I used to watch all that stuff on the TV, and then getting to play with him and DJ with him in places like the Reading Rooms, and I was like, even now, and I just like, hey, I pinch myself, that's a guy called Gerald. And then I went back to an after party with him, and I was standing speaking to him about Manchester scene and that, just going, what's going on here? This is mental. And just hearing him play Voodoo Ray and just see everybody just putting their hand on their heart going, wow, this is just like a moment, eh?
Yeah.
So just...
Who would you what DJs would you have looked up to then, or what would have been, like, I'm not saying heroes, but was there anybody maybe heroes, you were looking at what they played, or you were trying to mould yourself towards, or...
Aye, loads of heroes in the days. People like John Please Women, who now I'm really lucky today co-promote and run a night with them, and like call a friend. It's just like me and my missus Claire, we met across the Rumba, probably against Habara and a few other places, Fat Sam's definitely, and we sort of, I think the first night we sort of met and got yapping was a John Please Women night at the Rumba, and the tune...
So it's not his fault?
So we've already said that to him, I fell out with him a few times, and he played a really, 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 really choosy tune, and I reminded him about it, and he actually played at my wedding. Amazing. On a band, and then he DJ'd at my wedding, so I was like, this is just mental. And I made him play the tune. He goes, I never played that tune's horrendous. I says, you played that at my wedding. It was like, to the be the rhythm of the night. No, the DeBarge one, but it was like a dance mix.
Oh,
and it's great, but I was very dated. And that's something he's playing my set now for a laugh, and I play at the Selkie where I play sometimes. And he says, no, he goes, joking aside, I never played that at the Rumba. He goes, I got thrown off the decks. I goes, no, you did. Me and Claire met across that song. So John Please Women's definitely, even now, is like a hero. But I think in the days, your Todd Pauls, Seb Fontaines, are these guys, but too many DJs has been really, really people have looked up to, because I didn't really play like in the days I was playing trance, and when I was at Glam it was a trance club, I was pretty trancey, but when I was doing after parties or private parties, I was jumping between a bit of Visage, a bit of Pet Shop Boys, to a bit of trance, a bit of house. And now that 80s synth pop's still my love. It's just like a bit of craft work. So I'd always weave that in. So for me, too many DJs were doing that. They were just jumping across genres. It works for some people, again, to stick to that one genre all night, but it kind of bores me a little. So Paul Oakenfold was a big hero as well during the trance times, but Alistair Whitehead as well, just proper house music. And the thing about Alistair Whitehead, just such a nice guy, just such a really, really genuine, great guy. So I really liked him for that. So I had a lot of heroes. Probably John Please Women was one of the biggest of them. And then as a result of him, I ended up with the nickname.
Oh, I was going to ask. I was wanting to get to that.
Which is an absolute cringe-a-thon. But
do you want to tell the story?
Aye, it was a glam. So for anybody that's no glam at the waterfront in Arbroath, we spoke about that earlier on, was a huge club, huge club. We had all these levels. It was just like when you were DJing, you could see it was. I'm not what I say hacienda like, but kind of the levels. You could see people on no podiums. The stairs went up, then there was a walking back, and it was like one of those flipping Brazilian farms, just going up and up and up, and you could see everybody there, and the lights were good. So John Please Women was on after us, and I was warming up, and as anybody knows, those days there was loads of times where again Glam had some of the best lineups in Britain. It was just amazing. It was like Tall Paul, Seb Fontaine, Judge Jules, John Please Women, all on the same night. And Mixmag would say, this is the biggest night in Britain this week. And there's nobody and maybe somebody's got Fatboy Slim, and maybe somebody's got Tony DeVee, but nobody had 6 of the biggest names in Arbroath, a wee fishing village on the east coast of Scotland. So, and I was warming up for them, so it was just mental. And there'd be like 2,500 people there. It was just amazing. But I was just a young, early 20s belter for Dundee, so I was getting, and then I would obviously be nervous about Dangerous Boys, so I'd end up getting bloated, and then next minute Shy and that I'd hate to throw us out my NVIP for just being an absolute mess or a wreck. So I was warming up, and a few times, because there was so many DJs, like 6 DJs on, and they'd be coming in for Ibiza, that one of them would always miss a flight, one of them would be ill, one would have Ibiza flu, one of them would do it, and it wouldn't be the first time Shy or Ty would say, you're Seb Fontaine tonight, just carry on, just pretend you're Seb Fontaine, right? And people were that buckled, they'd go, all right Seb now, all right lad, just stick a London accent or just pretend to be these people. So this one time I was on, and I was warming up, and the crowd are coming up and high-fiving you. So, who's on next? John Please Women. And next minute they were all shouting for John Please Women. Come on, we want John Please Women on. And the crowd were going, John Please Women. And I just grabbed the mic, put the music down and went, fuck John Please Women. I'm Billy Pleased himself. And I thought I'd get laughed off, but the crowd went nuts and started cheering that. I went, Billy Please. So I went nuts. And then the next glam was a month later, and Shy and Tatty had put on the flyer, Billy Pleased himself. And this is funny, this is a giggle. And then it become there, and then I've got a double page spread for Mixmag. I was playing at the Tunnel, Billy Pleased Himself Morris, and I started going, that's actually a cringe-a-thon. It was funny, but I just started to get more serious about
Stuck
the
for a long time,
I did, mate. Well, yeah, people still, I think my Twitter handle's still Billy Pleased, because you can't change that, and Instagram was Billy Pleased for a while, and I think if I'm on Call of Duty or that, I'm Billy Pleased, and people shouting at him, Billy Pleased, how's it going? But I had to get away from it. But they twat buggers kept it going for a while. So, and then when I started DJing with John Pleased, when I did a day night called Dare with him, I couldn't call myself Billy Pleased and John Pleased. So I had to ditch that.
What does he think of it?
I explained it to him. He thought it was hilarious. Yeah. Like he can't remember, because they were the
good days.
They were the good days. But I used to get myself in some states, mainly because I was a young party going, but also there's a bit of nerves. You got your heroes DJing with you. I'd only been DJing for a couple of years. There was 2,500 people there, so I'd maybe a couple of shandies just to lubricate myself. But I used to go right over the score sometimes. Like one time I spoke with Paul Oakenfold was playing, so he was talking about 1999. It was massive. There might be actually about 3,500 people there. So I'm warming up, Oakie's coming on, and I got drunker. And next minute Tatty's going, what's going on here? And Paul Oakenfold come on, it's 12:10, so he's got the vinyl on, and I'm going, all right Paul, how's it going? And nudging him, grabbing him, and you could see obviously drunk me didn't realise that I was being a pest and saying like that. Tatty's going, leave him alone, you're pestering him. Hey, am I right? And he went, oh big man, just stand back a bit. And I went, no, here, this is my DJ booth, he's telling me to stand back. So I put my bottle of Bud on the turntable and had it spinning round on the thingy, which obviously come round and knocked his needle off. Luckily it wasn't the one that was playing, it was the one he was queuing up, and he went, oh, you can't do that. Tatty's go, here, he'll hate to get away. And I go, can't throw me, this is my DJ booth. steaming, absolutely steaming. So you had to get a bouncer to throw us out, and I got a 1 month ban from my own club. I couldn't DJ at the next Glam, and the next day he goes, "You were a pain in the arse." And I was like, "I'm really sorry." I thought, I'm not saying I had a drinking problem, it was just a drunken nerves thing, but I had to like curb my drinking with the DJing for a wee bit after that.
It was like I said to you before, I think that was the first ever gig like that I'd went to, and when the first time I'd seen you DJ, I wouldn't have knew it myself, and I didn't know you were such an arse that night to put Oakenfold. But I've actually got a signed ticket for Oakenfold for that night, and that's when I was thinking about it, and got mind getting on the bus and whatever else. But it was just an amazing thing. And when you mentioned Seb Fontaine, he was the first DJ I seen in Magaluf, and I saw him and I thought, I'm going to do this. That's why I want today. And then you get into the vinyl, and it was crazy. But before we move on, there was a couple of clubs I've wrote down just to see if you played them or what you thought of them, because some of the clubs we had, we've spoken about in them, but Circus in Dundee for me must be the best club I ever seen and ever sat foot in. It's incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, some looking club, they must have spent a lot of money on it, because it was just beautifully turned out. It was really, really nice. And then, do you remember that we had room 2 at the back? Yeah. I remember one time me and Paul Urquhart were DJing in there. We used to have an old school night called Era, and Glam was big and Circus was out there, and Tatty had asked us to play in the back room for a while. I'd kind of drifted away from DJing, it become a bit disillusioned in that, so I started doing the old school a wee bit of there, and we done it in the back, and it was maybe a bit of a quieter night. It was like an older crowd there, so the main room was, I think it was maybe probably too early for EDM. A bit sort of hard trance was coming out. It was a bit too hard, and the sort of main room quieting down a bit, and I come into the room 2 where we were playing flipping Korea, Let Me Love You for Tonight, flipping Voodoo Ray and all this kind of music. So me and Paul are banging out the old school tunes, so the crowd sort of gravitated towards it. So next minute Tatty said, "Again, I'm going to switch the music off in this room." He says, because there's about 150, 200 people in here, and there's only maybe the same next door, but next door looks empty. If we get your crowd in there, I says, "Yeah, but you've booked us to play here." He says, no, kind of typical Tatty. "No, I don't know what we'll just shut this room." I says, "Well, let us play a couple more tunes." Me and Paul, fucking alcohol again, but it ended up half cut. And I says, "I'm not switching off. Are you switching off?" Paul went, no, fuck them. So we barricaded, we're selling the DJ booth, and we didn't let anybody in. So there's a bouncer kicking the wee bar thing trying to say, "Mate, Tatty says you have to turn the music off." We're turning no fucking music off. We're booked. Me and Paul are on it. So we wouldn't let anybody in. Eventually they had to go into the circuit breaker and turn the power off for the whole booth in there, and then nobody went through. But it was kind of, we didn't really fight. I mean, I thought it was quite funny as well, and it was a good laugh, but it was one of these stories. But you're right, Circus was a beautiful looking.
I remember getting you used to get the pint that was frozen. I mean, I think it was about a tenner back then, but I went on the turn, the frozen glass come up, I had ice in the top of it, and it was probably about £8, and you just thought, this is amazing. And what an opening week lineup. The first name you said to me when I asked you about it, Belinda Carlisle.
Circle in the sand. Go on yourself, Belinda. I remember looking at her going, "That's Belinda Carlisle. What's she doing in Dundee? What's she going to do at top? That's it." What else were you two? Who else was on?
Mojo, Jeremy Healy, I think, played.
Jeremy Healy.
And the random thing was it, and I'll try and find this and I'll try and post about it as well, but I'm sure they had an act on and then a DJ, and Jimmy Somerville played.
Jimmy Somerville, I remember that. Aye.
And I'm pretty sure they had, but they didn't marry up. But somebody was on, and then there was like a dance DJ after them. I was like, this is weird, but that was incredible.
I vaguely remember something like that. But you could tell there was a lot of money spent on it.
Fortune. Way ahead of its time. I mean, I needed a 5-room venue at that point, you know what I mean, when Fatty's had one floor and the Mardi and whatever else. But
Judge Jules seemed to be there every other week as well. I think he was a resident there almost like bi-monthly, every couple of months. Good times.
Did you ever play at the venue in Lochee?
No.
You ever in it? Because
I was in it, but
Scott Souter tells me it was the best club he'd ever seen before Circus come along. There was TVs and was. It was just mental. I've
sort of got, see, because of where I went about the tune with a load of boys, and the venue was in Lochee. And when I was younger, there was a bit of friction between Lochee boys and Toon boys. It's all good now in the most part, but in the days there was a lot of friction and tension. And like, I lived in Minas Hill at the time, so I used to get jumped whenever I was in Lochee. Me, Maxie, Barry McCulloch used to always get on the bus, and we'd end up hitting a crate of empty bottles to flip and fight our way back off there when we got off at the Jimmy Shand, and then vice versa if we seen any Lochee boys there. So the venue was just in that, it was right in Lochee.
Yep.
So we went up, but must have went, probably count on two hands how many times I went, maybe 5 or 6 times to the venue. The one I did go was the closing down one, where all drinks were 5 pence or 10 pence or something.
What?
I'm sure they just was it 5? Somebody will text in and remind us it was like 5 or 10 pence a drink, and it was like, because it was closing down, all stock must go. So everything, you wanted a pint, 5 pence, you wanted a nip, 5 pence. So that was just like chaos. But always after, you had Jeff Capes on the door, so you'd come out and it'd be okay for 10 feet hour, but as soon as you started walking towards a taxi, you'd end up getting jumped or loads of bother, and the Beachy would be standing outside as well, and they just hated Abdi.
It's an interesting place to put a club, isn't it?
Totally. So I've always wanted to go in. I'm always wondering if the fixtures and fittings is there, because it was like they had the Alice in Wonderland, the big seats, like big 8-foot chairs, and everything was small thingy. So I always wanted to see if it was.
Honestly, Scott tells
like
me
that.
it was unbelievable, and I never went to the under 18s or anything like that. But
come on, they had good DJs. Well, they had Con D and that was in there. They had some good rave nights in there that went to a couple of big proper raves in there that was really good. So it was a good looking club. It just suffered for what it was. It was
mad.
like just too much bother outside for me.
The Habara,
I played there a few times. We used to go to what was the night that was at the Habara again? Me and Claire's kind of met there. God, John Thompson and that run it. Kentucky Club. Kentucky Club was a proper seminal club that we used to go there. They had some great DJs as well, Paul Wayne and all that. So I have DJed in there. Me and Paul Urquhart run Era in there. There was one night we'd put it on and we sold it out. Couldn't believe it. It was like £7 a ticket, and it was the night at bucketed of snow. It was meant to open about 10, and at tea time on Hogmanay it started snowing, and we'd sold out something like 250 tickets, and I think 12 people turned up. So we just sat in there like counting our money, kind of like playing records to each other, bored out of tits. We'd made loads of money, but I was like, I'd rather lost money and had people in here. Like, so the Barra was a really good wee place.
Any other clubs from back then that we've maybe missed that are worthy of a mention?
The biggest miss is the reading rooms. See, the reading rooms, just what a club that was. Just for a bit of everything. Kind of, it was dark, it was dingy, it was underground. It had a really you'd have slam one week, and then the next week you'd have flipping Lee Scratch Perry, then you would have the ska night, then you would have techno night,
then you'd have gigs,
just everything. Then you'd have comedian on, and just you had the bit outside that was really cool, the courtyard and all that. Had some great nights in there, and then I started putting my night on Dare with John Please Women, which was not like nothing else there. It was quite a camp, colourful, sort of housey vocal night, and they had everything in there. Just the fact that club's, can people talk about the Arches, which is a huge sad loss, and I used to love playing at Arches, and I miss that club. But for me, closer to home, the Reading Rooms is just a big miss for that, because the amount of DJs that started their careers there, or names that were made in there, like Book Club and these kind of things, it's a huge loss to Dundee, that place.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mind back in the very early days playing in like do you mind the Rock Stop that was between the Mardy and Fat Sam's.
Yes.
That's an interesting place as well.
You ever played in the Mardy, or are you too young?
No, I did, but only I was trying to work out the dates for the Mardy, so I had on a Thursday in there for about 12 weeks, and then this was when it was starting to go. I actually took it off of Val Duke and Val, so I took it off him, but it was like a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, and I mind just thinking, but like you, Kim, you go someplace as a punter. I actually didn't enjoy working there, because I enjoyed going there at the time and whatever. And again, what a place! Like, it might not be your dance music place, but for the general punter, what a place! It was amazing.
The sticky carpets of the Mardy. It was a place to go. It's a place that, well, they never really done dance nights, so it's not a place I would have really frequented. Like, but
it's £1 a drink, you'll be there.
But Fat Sam's is another thing. See, eventually being like my first proper clubbing in there to let us say Ned Jordan but under 18s clubbing, then progressing to getting in and Dave Kalikas and all that, and getting there to actually eventually DJing in there for the Glam moved to Fatties and playing in there for Glam. We like I remember early 90s Jeremy Healy. I was playing with Jeremy Healy in there, and Brandon Block. So Fat Sam's was another really good in, just to really play in there. And even now, whenever when the Rumba went back there, now I play for the Rumba, they did that their Festival of House in there, which I think they had about 60 DJs on or something. They had everybody: Sasha, Hot Chip, John Please Women, anybody, Mara Picotto, Jeremy Olander. Just the two events they done in there, it was just bonkers how they had every DJ, every big DJ in every genre. They had in the Fatties Live, they had, like, say, Sasha and Hot Chip and all this, and then this sort of old school Seb, Judge Jules and all that, and then downstairs they had the Harder and Picotto, and it was just incredible. So playing at the kind of events was just amazing.
So
Love playing the fatties.
You mentioned the rumba there.
Yep.
When did you start DJing for them? But also, can you explain the significance of the rumba in general, sort of as a club night in Scotland?
Just the rumba is a way to hold its 30th birthday party, and just 30th birthday, Ronnie, for any business to run for 30 years is amazing, right? But for a club and brand to run for 30 years is just phenomenal, and to keep going. And it's like, if you look at their 30th birthday lineup, I know just some of the guys that are DJing there, like Dave Seaman, you could argue are like rumba residents. John Please Women's been there so many times, and just to get these people coming back and still got the buzz, and for me to play at that event, that's probably where I think, if I'm playing at Fatties or I'm playing at my own night or Street Rave or Hannah's Choice, I'm a DJ. But see, when I go to the rumba, I kind of feel I'm just like a clubber who plays records, because I was there in the early days. It was what was the name of the place where it started? In Rock Sands in Perth. That was the first time I properly went clubbing, if you know what I mean by properly went clubbing, saying what I was doing. That was the first time I went there and was a proper clubber. And then it moved, I think I was only there twice, so it wasn't a huge Rock Sands thingy, but then it moved and it came to Dundee, and then I was a rumba, I would say a resident clubber. I was there and I followed it around, and it went back to Perth. I was there, so I think I become involved. After there one more tune, I sort of become known to Wayne. I'd always known Wayne and Stein, and started like getting to know them socially, and I think they got us in for the Arbroath one. They did a big one in Arbroath, and it was a huge lineup again. James Bradley for Chris and James, Jeremy Healy, wee Scotty Williams was at, God rest his soul, was on that one as well. Van Damme, these kind of guys, and I got in there and it kind of went well, and then they said, look, started pulling us back, and then Dundee Dance Event, would you like to play rumba DDE for us? That kind of went well, and then it just slowly fell into it, along with guys like Tom Simpson, who have played football with since I was like 9-year-old, and Chrissy Mann, who I've known, so Ray Jam, Mike McDonald, started playing with these boys, Alan Dobson, and it was kind of circles we were moving in, so it was kind of natural progression. But so thankful to Wayne and Stein. Just I never ever take it for granted. I'm kind of like at most of the events now as the warm up guy, but I never actually say I'm a rumba resident, because I'm always worried it's going to finish and stop, and it's just so happy, because my missus doesn't go to the rumba because I'm playing. My missus is going, oh, I'm going to the rumba, are you on? Yeah, because she's just going, and her pals are going to the rumba, and it just happened to be on.
She's not caring about you.
Yeah, she doesn't care about any idea, to be honest. Like, she's just like, oh, are you on it, DD? So I'm always thinking, I might end soon, but just to be playing at a club that's been going for 30 years, with the people that's there, with the crowd that still go, it's just phenomenal. Just an amazing club.
That's incredible. One thing I want to mention, and you can confirm if this happened. Eddie Halliwell doesn't turn up.
Yep.
1, what happened? And 2, who did the call on in his place?
So, I just touched about there. Scotty Williams, God rest his soul, no longer with us. Scotty was doing really well. DJing was going really well. His promoting was doing really well. Me and him done a lot of events together. We did a Mara Picotto in the waterfront together. It was just bonkers. It's just about 3,000-4,000 people going bonkers. I don't think we've ever, the videos of that on YouTube, and I think I've done a night since that's
was that the Electrode night?
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah,
that was mental.
The atmosphere there was just phenomenal. The videos are just bonkers.
He took forever to play his big tunes.
What a great guy as well. Now, keep booking him back. He's just such a great guy. And we did another in the reading rooms that went really well, and then we did another one in Fat Sam's that did okay. We maybe lost a wee bit of money, but it was still a great night, and it went okay. But just great him there. So Scotty was doing really well for his cell, and I met his name as a promoter and DJ, and he decided to put this big Eddie Halliwell night on. So I don't think I'm talking out of turn here with what went on. Eddie was his rider was, he needed a hotel for him, he needed a hotel for his pals, he had a big huge drink rider, he had all this kind of stuff. So I think, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact figures, but say for example Eddie Halley was $5,000, say he was $5,000, so you've got a contract with these people, you've got to pay, you agree to do it. So Scott had done this, and he wanted the money up front because he'd had his fingers burnt before. Somebody in Dundee, I wonder why that wouldn't have been, hadn't paid him, so he had his fingers burnt, so he wanted the cash up front. And because ticket sales, Scotty had loads of people he knew would be paying at the door. He never had the cash on him. I think he got $4,000 together and said, well, I've not got the 5. Here's $4,000. I know there's going to be a couple hundred people pay at the door because the buzz is crazy. And it was a busy night. And he said, so I'll give the other $1,000. And he went, nah, cash up front or I'm not playing. So he was booked in for 2 hours. So Scotty said, well, look, you're booked in for 2 hours for $5,000. If I give you the 4, will you play for an hour? No, he wouldn't budge. And Scott's texting me saying, "I'm up shit creek. Have you got like $1,000 in your bank account?" And in they days, I didn't hate to a halfpennies to rub together. I was a kitchen sink. I just had nothing. And I said, "No, I've no, mate. I've no." And probably would have been scared to give him it anyway because, like you say, clubbing's never a done thing. The nights you think will be busy or quiet, and the things will be quiet or busy. So if you want to lose money quickly, promote nights. That's my motto. But he's going, I'm really in the shit here. So he went around, I think I gave him 50 or 100 quid, and he went around about 10 of his good mates, and while I got there, and I think he got it up to about 4,400. So he was 600 shy, and Eddie went, the contract states $5,000. Again, it might not have been Fev, maybe Eddie Halliway, say it was 10 grand, I'm not sure. Fev rings a bell, but he was something like £400 short on it, and he says, no, I'm not moving till that comes. And by this time, the club had opened, he was getting some money in, so I think he went around with another 100 quid or that. And then he was like, I think by this time Scotty was going, what, a bit of an arse. Can like they say, I'm going to ask you once more, can you play for an hour? Nah, I'm not playing it. So he just decided to stay in his hotel. Kept drinking the free bevy he was getting though. He still had the room for his pals. This is the tale. And maybe Eddie Halliwell tells a different story, and maybe I'm blaspheming here, speaking about it, but this is the story I got for Scott, and Scotty's pretty honest. So we got there, the warm-up guys were on, I was playing in room 2, with Nicky Flame. Night kicked right off. It was looking really good. There was 2 other rooms. The white room, in fact, it was looking great. The main room was just getting up, and then Scotty went, he's not coming. So we're sitting in the green room. He goes, I'm going to tell people. And he says, I'm going to disappear. I'm going to get lynched. I said, look, mate, don't worry about it. They will be annoyed. You could give some people their money back. We'll mark it work. And then, suddenly it was time for Eddie Halliwell to go on, and there was a bit of power struggle in a wee vacuum. There was like 5 or 6 DJs were hanging about. They'd heard word now that Eddie was thingy. I think everybody was starting to I think at one point there was 6 people touching the mixer, and everybody was saying, I'm a what attack on, I'm a heavy shot, who's going? And it was just like people were, like when you watch a boiler room set and they get too close. Hey, now, see when people are doing boiler room set and people get too close to them and that, I'd be saying, elbowing people. So there was about 6 of us elbowing for jockeying for position. And I said, well, mate, you're going to decide, somebody's going to do the slot. And he went, what do you think? I goes, mate, it's up to you. What do you want? What? He goes, I don't know how I could trust you. He goes, would you do it for us? I said, well, I'll do it if you want. Do you want me to go on? And he says, okay. So I went in, and I says, what if I go back to back with Nicky Flame? Nicky was doing really well at the time. I says, if I go on my own, it'll maybe look thingy. We'll go on and we'll mark it look. And so me and Nicky Flame went back to back, and it just kicked off. By this time, the word was getting through that Eddie was in the come in. People were saying the bastard got $4,500 and he wouldn't play and that sort of thing. So the crowd actually turned on him and started saying, who the fuck is Halliwell? Had done that. So the mayor, we sort of fed off that. No, that's almost that football crowd, kind of the anger. People were getting annoyed that he wasn't there. And they were going, Eddie, fuck Eddie. So we're playing tunes, turning the music down, letting them chant, fuck Eddie. And it kind of kicked off, and it was just really good. And the buzz was just brilliant. Pierre Scotty nearly had a nervous breakdown, had to run away him, and he just went and hid and says, I don't know, the crowd's going to turn us. But he got the story out there of what had happened, and people turned on him.
Because I think, for me, I remember probably just reading about it on social media and thinking, that's me. I was at the stage. I wasn't going out to gigs like that, and purely because I don't know who I was speaking to at the time, because it was a wee while ago now. But I remember seeing him at the Glams, thinking, "This boy's amazing. Yeah. Like, this boy is amazing." And an absolute gentleman at the time. I wasn't paying his wages, so I wasn't. He was fine with me. And I mind speaking to him at the Glams and Ken just having a drink with him and whatever, and he was absolutely brilliant. And I mind hearing it going, that sounds well shite. And then it turns, and then you're hearing, wait a minute, he's demanding his money, and you're thinking, come on. And as his story was, he stayed in his hotel and then fucked off the next day type thing.
Here's the thing, Ronnie. Maybe this wasn't coming through him. Maybe Scotty speak to his manager, and maybe we all know, right? He was contractually obligated to get $5,000, right? Yeah. So to me, within contractual law, he was right. If he doesn't get his $5,000 before the gig, and it says must be paid before the gig, or he's not going to turn up. So he never did anything wrong legally, and he's maybe. He said before, he'd come out before it and said he'd had his fingers burnt in Dundee by somebody not paying him. But that would be if he says, look, I've got $1,000 here, I'll pay you the other $4,000. You could understand he's like...
It's the other way around,
But again, we're all humans, right? And he's got to thingy his crowd. He could have said, well, bugger wee Scott Williams, but my crowds expect me there for 2 hours. So I'll come, I will do it. I'll tap the $4.5 and I'll play for 1 hour. But maybe that message never got him.
It's not bad rule of rate.
Okay, well, it's not, I wouldn't get my bed for it, but it's so maybe his manager was sitting there going, no, Eddie, if you say yes this time, they'll start taking the piss. I think unless he gets the $5,000 here, we'll just say a good time. Maybe he was exhausted, maybe he got my faith. You didn't ken. So I'm not going to decry the guy, but I thought it was a bit shitty way to be. And like I say, he's out with I'll do an hour then for $4.5 and sure as fate, the night was mobbed, so Scotty would have had the extra £600 by the end of the night. He would have got it, but it's his full-time job. He was a big DJ at the time, so maybe he had enough gigs to say, no, you're taking the piss, so I'm not going to do it. So
listen, you turned down $5,000, you're doing all right. Tell you that now.
But here, do you know what? I profited it. See, for a while after that, it was just boom, boom, boom. The gigs just like really, I've been DJing since I was 18. I'm now 49. And I've been on a crescendo. I've had maybe a year out, and I've had this. I've had things happen. 2003, I was doing really well. I was playing the Glams. I was playing Fatties once a month. I was playing the Universe in Coatbridge. Was at that time. I was playing. I can't remember. I'm really terrible at years. I never can. What's what? Right? I forgot more things than I've remembered. But I had at least 3 or 4 residencies. Everything's going well, and then I'm in the Army Reserve. Still am, and I got called up for Iraq. 2003, I was like, I only joined the TA to get driving lessons in some cheap bevy. I'm getting pissed at Barry Budd and me and my mates. And next minute, I'm a troop sergeant in Iraq, standing in Basra, and there's bullets going on ahead, and I'm going, what the fuck am I doing here? And like, there was a couple of us, there was hundreds of reservists went, but I got put in with a regular troop, and I was in charge of it. And this is guys who'd been in for years, they'd been training their whole life for this, and I was just a pissed up guy who I was like I say, joined it for a piss up in Barry Budden. And I remember this we got sniper fire in downtown Basra, sniper fire going over, and I'm standing there going, what the fuck? And this young Siggy, which is like a private in the Royal Signals, which is what I was in, he goes, Sarge, can you make sure I go to this alive? And I just tapped him on the helmet and I'll get your son in. I just turned and went, what the fuck's going to get me at this? I'm thinking, how does DJing work in here? I said, I'm a DJ and I work in a factory. Now I'm standing in Basra, and it was really strange because there was the guys were all really sound. There was like a troop. There was about 9-12 of us. They were all good lads. Apart from one boy, there was a full screw, which it was a corporal, 2 stripes, and I was a sergeant. And it turns out this guy was up for his sergeant. He was going to get promoted, and obviously, if you're in the TA, you like get promoted, but it's like your hobby. It's not your main wage. But if you're in the army, it's your whole wage. It's what's paying the mortgage. This boy got carried over for promotion. He never got his sergeant, so he was a bit bitter and pissed off. He gets to Basra and they say, this is your new sergeant. It's a stab, which is what they call their stupid TA bastards. So the boy comes up and he says, so what are you? You were new troop sergeant? He says, yeah, I've never seen you. Royal Signals is quite a small corps, so most people know each other. He went, I've never seen you before. What unit are you in? I went, 2 Sigs. He went, oh, 2 Signal Regiment. I went, no, 2 Signals Gordon Dundee TA. And he went, yeah, fucking what? And this boy did everything he can to belittle us, bemoan us, tat the absolute piss. And it was just, there was one day I was there and it come to a head, and I thought, there's only one way out of this. This boy's trying to totally undermine me or thingy. So I said, can I have a word with you? Just grabbed him, pulled him in the wah. I said, right, me and you, there's only one way to sort this out. He was a Ouija as well. The boys were English. I thought would have that Scottish affinity, but the boy was a knob. But I could see he was annoyed at getting passed over. So I turned him around the back and said, right, me and you square go, let's sort this out as men. And he went, oh, no bother. So I grabbed the hood on him and grabbed him by the neck, put him against the wall and said, this stops now or you're for it. And he went, big man, sorry about that. And he was all right after that, but I'm still going like, fucking hell. What am I doing in Iraq? How did I get here? How did this happen? It was like Ben Vinyl 12 weeks ago, and now I'm standing here. But do you know what? It's kind of made as the guy I am. I like to think it seems weird being in a war zone, but I'm kind of more positive now. I looked at what the Iraqis had, and I looked at the state we left Basra in. I went up north to some of the places. I was in a lot of Saddam Hussein's palaces and looking around and seeing everything caked in gold, and 100 metres away outside the thingy, the boys were living rough. So kind of I didn't think I'm moaning about as much of that. But the downside to that was when I come back, other clubs had said, we'll keep your residency, thinking they'd been away for a couple of weeks. Kenny, he's away with the TA for 2-week camp. I was away for 6 months, so when I come back, I'd lost Glasgow, I'd lost the University, I'd lost the Arbroath, I'd lost Fatties, and so I kind of had to start again after that. So, like I say, I've been peaks and troughs, and that's where I've been.
One thing I want to ask, what was it like playing Carnival 56?
Oh, Carnival 56 was...
Because and if people have forgot, but it was a big event for Dundee, wasn't it?
Massive event, massive festival, massive lineup. I know for some people, maybe indie fans, it maybe wasn't the best lineup. There was like Clean Bandit, which is maybe a poppy type thing. But people say to me, you're only saying that because you were working there, you were DJing it, so of course you're going to bum it up. And yeah, I would. But for me, I went to Tea in the Park every year. I never went, right, what's the lineup? My mates went, Tea in the Park? Yeah. I didn't care where I was headlining on. Again, somebody'd say, actually, it's Clean Bandit and flipping Fast Eddie on the Myth organ this year. I'd have still been there. If the DJ was the boy that done the Weltzers at Caird Park, I'd have still been there. And it wasn't because it was a great day, whether it pissed down or it was sunny. A lot of my mates, as we got older, were people who had called Tea in the Parkers. They didn't go out clubbing every week because they had kids, they had a responsible job, they had families, so they couldn't go every week. But every year was just this squad would get a 15-seat minibus and would go to Tea in the Park. And it's for me, driving back from Kinross or wherever it ended up being, you'd be on that bus and the hangover would start to kick in because you'd been drinking for 1 in the afternoon. You're starting rough. You'd either fast sleep on the bus or you'd be ready to go to a party and you'd feel rough. And that bus journey home was horrific, in your wellies, soaking, pished right through. And I thought, Carnival 56, we could do the same, but I could whack him for Campy. I could whack him, or at worst get a taxi and it'll be 5 minutes. That's amazing. And then for me, obviously being a dance music fan, I love indie music and but for dance music, it was like Basement Jacks, Sasha, James Abelia, what was he said, the Scottish boy that was thinking. It was just an unbelievable lineup. And people say, I didn't think it was the best. Sasha's the biggest DJ in the world, and that's there. And then I can't remember who was the added a band later when somebody pulled it. They added. I was about to say Prefab Sprout there. Why did they add?
I can't remember.
Primal Scream. They had Primal Scream.
There you go.
They had Primal Scream. That's still amazing, but the venue. And we'd always look forward to it. Do you remember Radio 1's Big Weekend?
I was at that. That was amazing.
That was phenomenal as well. And that was another thing. It was like, this is a festival in Dundee, but you could swagger him after it. Yeah. Because as Dundonians, we've either had to go Aberdeen Airport or Glasgow Airport or Edinburgh Airport. When you go on holiday, you don't leave for Dundee unless you're just going to London. You've got to get a train or drive to Glasgow or Edinburgh. If you go to a festival, you've got to transmit, or you've got to go to Tea in the Park.
This is on the doorstep.
And I thought that 1 weekend was phenomenal. Had the best time ever, and then swaggered him. So I thought Carnival 56 is just going to be this and more. The weather was great. It was fantastic, but just this Dundee mentality of, but I've not got this long plane, so I'm not going to go. And a few people, and there was issues with tickets and that. A few people turned their back on it, but support it. And then they same people were saying, is it no back next year? Well, no, did you go? No, well, that's why it's no back next year. But for me, the main stage was just like, the dance tent was a success. I know people say the bands weren't great, but the dance, the crowd, the DJs they had in the crowd, the tent was rammed. So I opened up on the Saturday, so I was the first DJ to play it, and there was like, I think there was about 12 turntables. Because they had that many big DJs on, they needed to transition between them. You know yourself, back in Medday, you put a bit of vinyl, but now there was CDJs, somebody will need a laptop, so you need room for all these guys to stick their flipping
bits and bobs
and you can't be leaning our James Abelia plugging your iPad in while he's doing it, so you've got to have these decks right across. So for a festival you need them, so there's about 8 decks there, 2 1210s, and I was just like, wow, it's like a spaceship. So starting off with that was just amazing, warming up for the boys. And then later on I was playing with Mikey Robertson on the Red Bull truck, and me and Mikey done this kind of like the Austrian clocks, kind of where the woman goes in and the man goes back. Well, me and Mikey were playing this game day where there was a big bar underneath the decks in the main dance thing. So because we bought a couple of drinks just to get us loosened up, but I think there wasn't many people there for my set open at 2. So I got too drunk, and before I knew it, I was blurred. But when you know you're blurred and you're like, what am I doing here? I need to sober up. I'm playing at 8 o'clock on the Red Bull truck. I need to sober up. And Mikey Robertson come and goes, me and you are back to back in about 4 hours, you better sober up. And I says, okay. And I seen him an hour later, and he was going, where are we playing later, boy? I says, so I'd sobered up. I went, Mikey, you better screw them up, pal. And then I went to another tent and there was a free bar there, and I so I better. Next minute I was flying about again. He went, and it was like we were that Austrian clock. He was bluttered, I was bluttered, and then we got in the truck. Luckily I'd sobered up a bit by then. We were on that 71 brewing thingy. Mikey was gubbed. Mikey was absolutely gubbed, and the sun was beaming down because it was outdoors, beaming down on the CDJ 2000s. You couldn't read the screen, so we're there. We were pissed as we couldn't see what was going on, so it ended up being an absolute shambles. So I think we got away with it. Just, but that was the highlight of my Carnival 56.
Well, if you thought you got away with it, you've just outed yourself, so that's fine. One thing I was noticing before COVID and that, because we'll get to what you done during COVID, but before that you were kind of doing that transition from DJing to producing, weren't you? You were doing a sort of testing your hands at other stuff and trying new things.
I was, and I wanted to try it, and I went on a course for Amble, and I kind of enjoyed it, but it's something you really, really need to put the time in to get any kind of level of good on production in Ableton. You need to put the time in. You need to give it. And you need to, they say producers now are the nerds, the pasty white people with bad backs, poor eyesight and bad ears, because you've got to sit. If you want a tune, you might hit a lucky viral tune, you bang one out and you turn a few knobs and it comes out quite good. But if you want to put the time in, and you want to hear more than one tune, you might hear one fluke. But if you want to be a career as a producer and do it, you need to sit in that studio and work. And I just didn't have that time. I'd like to have the time. I struggle to find the time of DJing. I work full time. Currently I used to work in Aberdeen, but now I'm in Glenroth. That's quite a stressful project management job. That takes up all my time. Then I'm in the Army Reserve. That's every other second weekend. I'm a staff sergeant in that. That's kind of a lot there. I was coaching my son's football team, Dundee West, 3 times a week, then the game as well. So that's kind of you've got to prepare for it. You've got to do the paperwork. You've got to do stuff. Aye. Parents are phoning you every 15 minutes, like, texting you, what's happening with this? What's happening? Come in, yeah, I'm at work, mate. And this isn't my full-time job. I also run Dundee West over 35s and still play football over on the side that, and run club nights and promotion and do a few other businesses. So we are that. There's not a lot of time for production, and I would love to, but also I kind of got on it and I kind of enjoyed it, but I just thought I've just not got the time to devote. And to do the basics is there, but let's say to go up a level, you've got to learn. And I'm an all or nothing type of guy, but I also kind of sort of got annoyed about it, because some people are really good producers and some people are really good DJs. And some people are really good DJ producers. You've got your Patrick Toppin, whose tunes are great producer, and when he's DJing, I like hearing him as well. But I also know some people who are really good producers who are absolutely shite DJs. And just because you can make a good tune doesn't mean DJs know. And some people think DJs now, we modern equipment, yourself, you press the sync button and a guy who picks it up next week is as good a DJ as me, but mixing. But before, you put a set of 1210s in front of somebody, and again, I'm not one of the DJs where says, if you can't mix vinyl, then you're not a DJ. I'm after technology. I've got CDJ 2000s. I press the sync button. I know how to beat match, but I do it. So I'm not one of them old school DJs. But DJ's no pressing button. It's knowing when to play a tune to the right people, to the right crowd, knowing what you're kind of doing. Whereas I think there's people who are producers and they play just their tunes, and that's great. There's also loads of DJs like me who aren't great producers and haven't had the time. And it's kind of like this, you've got to make it in the crowd, make it in the world now, you've got to be a DJ producer. There's nobody making it now who isn't making tunes. And that for me, well, why should that be? Call them people producers and call them people DJs. And some people are DJ producers, but I just think it's annoying that you've got to be seen to be a DJ producer to be a DJ. And that's not what DJing's about for me.
And you go for the big difference, like say you're saying you're starting out in 1210s to what's your current setup now? I mean, what about with USB pens yet? Well,
that's it. So in my studio next door, I've got 2 CDJ 2000s, just the Mark ones on the Mark II, so they didn't have the sync button, and 2 1210s, an RMX 1000. So that's kind of, and I used to take, if I was gigging at parties, I would take that all out, and then I started to realise that it doesn't really like being, even with flight cases, that kind of equipment doesn't like being moved about. So I thought, no, I need to. And as I got busier and during lockdown and started to do private gigs and doing parties and that, I hated controllers. I really, really had a bad time with controllers. A few of my mates had them, and they were just like these Fisher Price toys, and they had those tiny, anybody that's DJ'd, the jog wheels, the platter on a turntable that you put a bit of vinyl on, and CDJ's computer DJ equipment tries to replicate that with a big bit of vinyl, and you push the vinyl the same as you do. these wee things pushing them, and they'd always spin dead quick, and it was like playing Bop It or something for me. And then I done a few gigs with people, and they had some of this DDJ 200s and all that, and it wasn't a DJing for me. It was like playing that dancing game on the Wii, and it was just like I wanted to date with my. You can yourself being a DJ. See when people come up and say, "Are you still DJing? Are you still playing that boom boom music?" And I was going waka 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 waka, and they did that scratching noise and they did that motion. You were like that with them, and I hated them. And I actually started saying to people to gigs, "Oh, we've got a gig. We're doing this. I've got an XDJ RX745 Cosworth Fiesta gear." And I'm like, what is that? Can I plug my memory stick in? And it's and I said, right, the jog wheel. I was like, waka 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 waka, and it was like a. You see the cats have got these scratch posts that I've got. I was like, it's a cat scratching post. And I hate these. Yeah. And they would always, because they were laptops, they would stop working. Oh, that channel doesn't work. Somebody spilled a drink on it. And I said, oh no, it's no for me. But come full circle, after lugging the 1210s about and lugging the CDJ 2000, I thought, they're £1,500 a pop. These are too expensive to be. And people say, can I hire them? And I said, I'll date for 50 quid and hire them. They'd always come back with a drink spilt on them, because I spill drink on equipment when I'm DJing, and everybody spills it. And if it's no your equipment, it's funny, you didn't take care of it. But the other thing is, if you hire equipment out, you've got to be a guy who could fix the equipment. You've got to be able to service it. So that's why they make their money. It's easy for them to take the board out, clean it and do it. So I said, no, I do it. So I bought myself a controller. But I bought the DJJ 1000 because it's got the same jog wheels it's on the 2000. So it does feel like, when you're playing with it does feel like a DJ equipment rather than a Fisher Price thing. So I think things have moved on now, but there's just so much kit out there. It's just like, it's a good thing. It's so affordable. There's so much technology. It's great. Anybody could now be a DJ in their bedroom. So it's great in a way. Yeah. So that's what I'm playing on now.
COVID obviously hit, and for Abdi it was chaos, because nobody, I think most people thought it'd be like 3 weeks, but gigs stopped, and your live lockdown podcast was born.
Yes.
Were you just thinking, I need something to do on a Saturday night?
Do you know what? I thought about it. I kind of spoke before. I've had this like peaks and troughs of DJing. I've been right into it, and then I was never quite fell out of love. No, when I did sort of fall out of love, when EDM came along, it kind of really, really killed it for me, Ronnie. And it was just like, everybody I knew was playing EDM. Everybody I knew was buying decks. Every gig I went to, people were playing the same Beatport top 10. And there was no variety. And it was just like the DJ would come off and do it. And I was starting to play for like Colours and Street Rave. And then I went and played Colours Fest a couple of times in Glasgow, big festival. And I sort of played the first one, and it was housey, and I played a house set, and I just went doing okay, and it was getting there. But in that days, it was like you had to bring a bus, and you were DJing in a portaloo, basically, so you had to bring crowds. And it was great. But you know what? It's an education. You're working your way up to stuff. And people, I wouldn't decry it. You've got to work up yourself. You'll have done gigs for nothing. Yep. You do gigs for free sometimes with the offer of, you do this, and then the next thing will give you money, and maybe it doesn't work out. But people say it's about exposure, but unfortunately exposure doesn't pay your mortgage. So you do the gigs and you get your name out there, and then you start to say, no, I'm needing 50 quid, 100 quid, and then you start to work up, then you get a name. So it was good and I'd done it. But then the next year I'd done it, and EDM had just come in, and the main room was EDM, and the trance room was EDM, then my room. So I went in and played house, and it cleared it, and the next one, this. And loads of people I knew were DJing EDM, and now they'd probably be embarrassed they were playing it. But for me, it almost killed music for me. It was just every tune's that big. It's hardcore for me, and it killed it. And I started going to gigs, and then I played a gig in the reading rooms, and it was EDM, and the boy before me was playing 145 BPM, and this was in the chill out room, and I'm thinking, Christ, I'm going to go on and play flipping DJ Alan Brax at 118 BPM. I'm going to kill it. And right enough, I went on and I killed it, but no because the music was shit, because this guy's banging it out at 9:30, and then I done there, so I kind of fell out with love of music a wee bit. And then I did my night with John Please Woman Dare, which rekindled it again. And then I started getting gigs again. Street Rave come along, and I started doing the Arches, and it was, this is all right, but I've got a busy life, so one gig a month's probably doing is all right, earning decent money. Here we go. DD was probably my favourite day of the year. That was going really well. So it was good. And then lockdown come, and I thought, do I want to do a live stream? I've got other equipment. I've got a studio. This would work. Not really. And my good mate Keith Gibson, he went, how you not doing a live stream? Some DJs are getting like loads of views, hundreds of views. I says, do you think there'd be any market for that? And he went, well, we could always ask. And I says, well, you get 100 likes on this post, 150 likes on this post, and we'll see how it goes. So he goes, right, okay. So he tagged us in and goes, guys, I'm trying to get Bully to do a live stream. If he gets 150 likes on this, Bully, will you agree to do a live stream? I says, I only get it